3 bone-chilling first-day on the job horror stories that haunt today. The bell tolled ominously in the distance as Sarah stepped into the dimly lit office for her first day on the job. It wasn't just any office, it was the infamous Haynes Company. Scuttlebutt whispered tales of strange occurrences, footsteps echoing in abandoned halls, flickering lights that seemed to have a mind of their own, and shadows that danced in corners when no one was around. Some even claimed they had seen ghostly figures lurking, their frozen faces haunting the very air. A chill ran down her spine as she crossed the threshold, stepping into a world where reality blurred with the supernatural. Inside, the air felt thick, almost electric. The walls absorbed sound, leaving an eerie silence only punctuated by the faint ticking of an ancient clock. Her new colleagues greeted her with tense smiles, eyes darting toward the empty conference room like it held secrets. "Just wait until nightfall," one of them, Mark, muttered under his breath. The warning echoed louder than the office chatter. Shadows stretched longer as the sun dipped, wrapping the building in darkness. Outside, the wind howled like a banshee, leaving an unsettling feeling that nestled deep in her gut. As the day wore on, strange things started to happen: files missing from her desk, whispers brushing against her ear like a lover's caress but twisted in a way that made her skin crawl. Was it just the stress of a new job, or was something more sinister at play? When Sarah's phone buzzed, its screen lit up to reveal a chilling message: "Help me." Her heart raced. Who sent it? She glanced around, but everyone seemed engrossed in their own work, their faces drawn tight in concentration. What unseen specter was pleading for her attention? "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect." Tension crackled in the air as she ventured toward the conference room, drawn by an inexplicable force. The door creaked open, revealing a scene from a nightmare: papers swirling in a frantic dance, chairs scraping against the floor as if caught in a wild wind. It was here that Sarah felt a cool breeze brush past her, carrying with it a scent of decay that made her stomach turn. She hesitated, dread pooling in her chest as the whispers returned, louder and clearer. Leave now? What had she stumbled into? Was this job worth the fear tightening around her heart? Just as she turned to flee, the lights flickered again, plunging her into darkness. Shadows flickered before her, undeniable and menacing. She could nearly hear their voices calling her name. As the lights came back on, she saw a figure standing at the far end, a mere silhouette in the gloom. Her breath hitched. Who or what was it? Would she uncover the truth or find herself trapped forever? The figure seemed to pulse with darkness, swaying gently as if caught in an unseen tide. Sarah's heart pounded, each beat echoing like thunder in her ears. She wanted to run, to escape this ominous presence, but her feet felt glued to the floor. Panic clawed at her throat, and she fought against the urge to scream. "Who are you?" she managed to choke out, her voice barely above a whisper. The shadows shifted, and a chill swept through the room as the figure began to step closer. With every inch it advanced, the temperature dropped, and she could see her breath misting in the air. The face was indistinguishable, hidden behind a curtain of darkness, but she felt its gaze boring into her soul. In her peripheral vision, movement flickered, a flash of white, perhaps the edge of a shirt, darted away. Mark? Had he returned? She turned her head, desperately hoping for a familiar face, but there was only emptiness. The unsettling whispers grew louder, each word hitching in her chest. "Help me find them." "Find who?" she pressed, her voice trembling as she squinted into the darkness. But the figure remained silent, its intentions as unfathomable as the void it emerged from. Just then, a sharp crash shattered the oppressive air, causing Sarah to leap backward. The door slammed shut, locking her inside with the flickering ghost of dread. Her pulse quickened. Was it just the wind, or was something playing with her? The tension in the room tangled with her fear, squeezing tight. She backed away, eyes darting to every corner, hunting for an escape. The walls felt like they were closing in, creeping closer with every second. "Sarah, you need to get out." It was a voice, clear and firm now, cutting through the whispers. She swung around and saw Mark standing at the window, his face pale and strained. "The stories are real. You have to leave before it's too late." He motioned as if to open the window, but the glass was oppressed by an invisible weight, refusing to budge. "What are you talking about? What is happening?" she shouted, her voice echoing against the walls of the now suffocating room. "The building, there are souls trapped here, and they want to let you go." Mark's eyes shone with panic, and the shadows seemed to swirl around him, dark tendrils whispering secrets. "You got the message, didn't you? You're in danger." The air thickened, charged with an energy that brought tears to her eyes. She turned back to the figure, which now seemed to loom larger, a malevolent presence intent on claiming her. "Help!" it hissed, a desperate plea layered beneath a haunting wail. It echoed in her mind, making her head spin. Suddenly, the lights began flickering violently, casting chaotic shadows that twisted and turned like living things. Mark's frantic shouts grew more frantic as he struggled to open that window. But the shadows were everywhere now, whispering her name like a siren's song. "Leave her!" The air vibrated, deep and menacing, wrapping Sarah in its hypnotic embrace. Then the lights went out completely, plunging her into darkness. Sarah's breath hitched, and her heart thudded in her ears. Every instinct screamed for her to run, to flee from whatever this was. But how could she escape when the menacing figure stood blocking her path and Mark was presumably trapped outside? Just when she thought it couldn't get any worse, a chilling realization struck her like ice. What if this was not about leaving at all? What if the very job she was trying to escape was the one with the souls trapped, and she was the key to unlocking their torment? The thought made bile rise in her throat. "Sarah! Look, just focus." Mark's voice broke through the haze of fear. But as she squinted against the void, a new figure emerged from the dark, a cramped silhouette she had seen before, flickering just on the edges of her vision. Was this her fate? Would she unravel the truth, or become just another whisper in the office walls? The shadows tightened their grip, suffocating her resolve. As she took a single step forward, ready to confront the darkness, a new message buzzed at her feet. Flickering in the last dying light. "Find me before it's too late." A cold chill filled the air. Who was it now that needed rescuing? Would she be the savior or the victim? The darkness pressed in like a heavy blanket, the shadows writhing around Sarah, suffocating her thoughts. Her heart raced, a frantic rhythm spurred on by the palpable dread enveloping her. The whispers, now deafening, coiled around her ears. "Find me," they beckoned. Who was lost? What souls lingered here, trapped in torment? Mark's frantic words echoed in her mind. Escape. She needed to escape. But each breath felt like a struggle, thick and acrid, tinged with the chill that seeped deep into her bones. She felt the figure swaying closer again, and she steeled herself. This was a confrontation one she could not avoid. "Stay back!" Sarah shouted, trembling yet defiantly stepping forward. She almost startled herself. The figure halted, the air becoming stagnant as if the world held its breath. "Find your truth, unlock." The shadows, the whispers melded with the figure's voice, treacherous and haunting. With each word, she felt something unraveling within her, a history of dread and silence echoing like a long-forgotten song. She blinked, her eyes adjusting to the belly of the darkness. And just then a flash. A vivid memory pierced through, her first day on the job, the jovial laughter of colleagues, the innocence before all hell broke loose. Bright lights, fresh-faced excitement. And yet, at that moment, she had felt an undercurrent, a sense of dread that was often left unspoken. "Sarah!" Mark's voice pulled her back. Get away from it. The urgent alarm in his tone cracked her focus, spiraling her back into the room. The shadows howled, tugging at her with icy fingers as she watched her friend struggle against the weight of the building. She could see the terror in his eyes, a reflection of her own fear. You have to remember, he urged, his face almost ghost-like in the faint glow that flickered back into existence. Those who are trapped, they are tied to your fate. Release them, and you may find your own way out. Behind him, she could barely make out the outline of the figure shimmering with uncertainty, growing more definite as Mark's plea resonated through the air. Her heart thundered in her chest. Was this true? Were the souls here part of her own journey, a puzzle that needed solving to break free? The room around her began to warm, and the shadows receded ever so slightly, as if sensing her resolve. She caught a glimpse of an object nestled on the floor, a scrap of paper, glimmering, like a beacon. Find it, uncover the secrets, the figure urged again, its voice now laced with desperation rather than malice. Urgency pooled in the air, she needed to act. She darted to the paper, her fingers brushing against something cold and metallic. It was a key, an old-fashioned, ornate key. A stirring of hope ignited in her chest. This could mean freedom, release, or worse, a trap that could seal her fate forever. Sarah. No. Mark's voice sliced through the air as she gripped the key tighter, feeling its weight and the pulse of the shadows vying for her soul. She had to know. Unlock the truth, and you'll find me, the figure whispered, softly urging her on, mirroring the past she couldn't escape from. Before she could see what lay beyond the shadows, the lights flickered and buzzed, amplifying her sense of urgency. Time was slipping away, a fleeting moment suspended on a knife's edge. With a deep breath, Sarah lifted the key, ready to confront whatever lay ahead. Would she unearth the truth it held, or would the darkness consume her whole? The path before her was twisted and uncertain, and she knew one thing for sure: it was not just her life on the line, but the souls entwined with her fate. As tension mounted, a sudden crash echoed behind her. Was it the figure? Had it come for her? Or had Mark returned, risking everything to save her? The darkness thickened, wrapping around her like a vice. Just as she turned, ready to face the next wave of terror, a new voice shattered the silence, a voice she recognized all too well, whispering from the edge of the shadow, "Help me find them." The question hung in the air, knotting her stomach. Who was pleading for help now? The voice, familiar yet disembodied, slithered through the thick veil of darkness, wrapping itself around Sarah like a cold shroud. Help me find them. It was her own voice, echoing as if trapped in a time loop. But her eyes blinked hard, her mind racing. How could that be? She felt a dizzying pull between two spaces, two realities. The shadow figure loomed closer, as if sensing her confusion, its energy pulsating with an anxious urgency. "Sarah, we need to go," Mark yelled, his voice deepened with rising panic. He reached out, desperation etched into every line of his face. But the moment was so tense, the air buzzing, she couldn't move. The key dangled between her fingers, shimmering ominously under the flickering lights. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. Was she ready to unlock the truth? "Find who, Sarah?" The voice echoed again, twisting hauntingly in the air. "Find them and set me free." "Stop!" she shouted, stepping toward the shadow, fighting off the instinct to flee. Something deep inside her stirred, drawn to the figure. Maybe it was the fear of the unknown. Or maybe it was the desperate need to understand. "Who are you?" A deep silence blanketed the room. Shadows recoiled slightly, revealing glimmers of the forgotten. She could see fleeting faces etched in the darkness, faces filled with anguish, mouths twisted in screams that had never escaped. Memories half-formed floated just out of her reach. "Sarah, please." Mark's voice cut into her reverie. "Whatever's in there, it's pulling you in. You don't know what it's capable of." But the words felt distant, muffled by a growing sense of destiny. "It's me," she whispered back, her eyes narrowing on the figure, the warmth of the key now sinking deep into her palm. "I have to do this. I have to remember. Unlock the truth." The figure leaned forward, its face no longer veiled in shadow but still indistinct, a haunting semblance of Sarah herself. She could see grief there, a reflection of her own fears, the past, the present, all twisted together. Gathering her courage, Sarah raised the key toward the figure. It shimmered and pulsed, beckoning her forward. With every ounce of her will, she uttered words she didn't even fully believe. "I want to find the lost souls. I'll help you." Instantly, a ferocious wind howled through the room, tossing papers and debris around like leaves in a storm. The lights flickered wildly, dimming and brightening in a cosmic dance of chaos. In the midst of this storm, the shadow began to morph. From darkness emerged a silvery mist, swirling with the heat of anger and sorrow. The faces around her screamed without sound, their eyes wide with hopelessness. "Find them. Find us." The voices cried out, merging into a single, ear-splitting harmony. Her grip tightened on the key, mind racing. What was lost? Was it her sanity, her safety, or something even more profound? Was she searching for them, or for herself? "Don't you see? You must!" shouted Mark, his body barely holding onto reality as the atmosphere crackled with electricity. A blinding light erupted from the key, slashing through the shadows, and for a split second, Sarah glimpsed a swirling vortex, a doorway to something more. Then she felt it, a sudden tug, a pull from the shadows that was both terrifying and exhilarating. "If I unlock it, what will happen?" she murmured to herself, torn between the thrill of knowledge and the fear of the unknown pressing in on her. In a moment of insanity, she shouted, "I'm ready," and plunged the key into the unseen lock in front of her, heart racing like it was drowning in the torrent of the unknown. A deafening silence fell, and as the light engulfed her, the whispers turned into screams. Would she unleash the truth, or would she awaken something far worse? The shadows lurked, hungry for her next move. With every ounce of her being, Sarah prepared for the impact of what lay beyond the door, aware that certain truths could shatter everything. And just as the light began to swallow her whole, she heard a faint whisper, "You'll wish you didn't." What had she done? The light enveloped Sarah, its intensity blinding. For a heartbeat, time warped and twisted, throwing her senses into chaos. Sounds exploded around her, flesh against flesh, wails of the lost, and the piercing cries of sorrow melded into a cacophony that made her head spin. She couldn't tell if she was still standing or if the ground had vanished altogether. Suddenly, she was thrust into a space that felt both familiar and alien. The room materialized around her, drab walls, flickering fluorescent lights overhead, and a chilling breeze that whispered against her skin, making the hair on her arms stand on end. But something was wrong. There were no windows, no doors, only the suffocating scent of dampness and decay. "Sarah!" Mark's voice sliced through the haze, full of urgency. She turned to him, but his face was twisted in fear, shadows pooling in his eyes. "We can't be here. You have to break free." "Break free?" she echoed, glancing around the claustrophobic space. "This feels like somewhere. I've been here before." And then it hit her, the memories lurked in the corners of her mind, rising like smoke from a dying fire. This was the old school, the one she used to wander through as a child. The long-forgotten place held a tragic history, a dark chapter locked away from the world. She could almost hear the whispers of children who had once roamed its halls, their laughter now twisted into cries. "No!" Mark yelled, eyes darting wildly. "Don't get lost in it. Fight it." With a surge of determination, Sarah pressed forward, her fingers brushing against the walls, cold and clammy. She needed to find the source, the reason for the pull, the lost souls that had cried for her help. As she walked, she passed doors that loomed ominously, each one edged with shadows that seemed to leer at her. They whispered secrets that sent chills racing down her spine. Unlock the truth, the voice echoed again, but this time, it felt like a plea wrapped in pain. A dark silhouette danced at the end of the corridor, beckoning her closer. It wore the form of a little girl, hair disheveled, a frail hand outstretched. Help us, heart racing, Sarah swallowed hard. Help who? The girl flickered, her expression twisting between hope and despair. We are trapped, like you can set us free, but uncertainty flooded her. I don't have the power you do. The girl's voice rose, piercing the air. You unleashed the door. It's here. Find the others and break the chains. Chains? Sarah felt a knot form in her stomach. The whispers intensified, surrounding her, rising into a frantic murmur that made the room pulse. Each step she took felt heavier, as if the darkness was trying to pull her back. A door loomed in front of her, one that glimmered with the same light as the key she held. Open it. You have to. Mark shouted, his voice crackling with urgency. Drawing a deep breath, Sarah reached for the handle, feeling the icy metal bite into her flesh. Outside this door lay something lurking, something she couldn't yet comprehend. But fear clawed at her heart, battling against the desire to uncover the truth. Do it, Sarah. Mark yelled again, the pressure building in the air like static electricity. She twisted the handle. The door creaked open, revealing a blinding white light that struggled against the darkness behind her. As she stepped through, she felt a sharp tug on her mind, echoes of past tragedies flooding back, lost children, forgotten dreams, and the pain of families torn apart. And then, just as swiftly, the light flicked off like a dying bulb. Silence fell like a heavy curtain, but she sensed that this was only the beginning. What awaited her on the other side, and would the memories she uncovered lead to salvation or destruction? The shadows were watching, hungry for her next decision. The moment Sarah stepped through the door, the silence engulfed her completely. It was as if every sound in the universe had vanished, leaving only her racing heartbeat in the stillness. Panic threatened to swallow her whole. Only seconds passed, but it felt like hours as she stood paralyzed, enveloped in an unrelenting haze. Then it cracked. Soft whispers seeped into the silence, floating around her like autumn leaves caught in a windstorm. They were words she couldn't quite decipher, lingering just beyond her reach. Help, help. The cries of children echoed, louder now, bouncing off the walls around her. Sarah. Mark's voice cut back in, strained and echoing. What's happening? She turned, searching for him in this strange, new void. His outline was blurred, slowly coming into focus. Fear grimaced on his face as his transparency faded in and out, like a glitch in reality. Stay with me. He yelled, and she could see his hands reaching for her but not quite able to touch. Mark. I can't just stand here. Her words trembled, the weight of the unknown pressed down like a lead blanket. Find the children. He shouted, desperation swirling in his eyes. They're lost just like us. The whispers crescendoed again, a sweetly tragic harmonization of pleas that sent shivers racing down Sarah's spine. She moved forward, compelled by an invisible force. The floor felt cold beneath her feet, each step met with a haunting echo. Shadows danced on the periphery of her vision and streaks of darkness flickered just out of line with the light. What do you want from me? She found herself asking the space surrounding her. The air thickened, making her chest feel tight, and she could taste metal on her tongue. Fear and desperation mingled dangerously. Unlock us, a voice said, distinctly different from the others. It wasn't the little girl anymore. The tone was older, wearier, fraught with grief. Why me? Sarah pressed, nearly shouting into the void. What can I do? Warmth dripped into the chill of her uncertainty, and a sudden rush of clarity filled her mind. Her memories surged, conscious and vivid. Her childhood, the games played in deserted hallways, the thrill of the thrilling stories spun by her friends in the very rooms that now imprisoned them. Those echoes brought a soft glow to her heart, igniting a fire of determination. I'll help you. She breathed, but you have to show me how. The shadows swirled around her, forming a path of dim light, leading her deeper into the darkness ahead. Mark was fading, his voice growing softer, but she knew he'd have her back. She stepped forward into the pathway, each shadow flickering and whispering her name, coaxing her onward. The passage opened wider, revealing a series of doors that loomed like sentinels, each one marked with peculiar symbols. The little girl's face flashed in her mind, an ever-present reminder of the childlike hope that carried promise yet echoed with despair. Which door? She pondered aloud, rising dread pulling at her heart. The whispers shrieked in unison, drowning out her thoughts. Choose, choose. They echoed, insistent and frenzied, wrapping tightly around her, as if a storm were unfolding. Just as she moved to reach for the door on her right, a sudden chill gripped her, and she froze. Something dark, something heavy clung to the air, breaking the ethereal whispers. A shadow shifted behind the far door, something monstrous looming in the depths. Time moved differently here, her instincts screamed danger, but she could feel the children crying within. Which choice leads to freedom? She whispered to herself, the uncertainty turning the air electric. Behind her, Mark's presence flickered dangerously. Sarah, don't. With trembling hands, she prepared to unlock her fate. What door would she choose, and would it lead her to liberation or further into the abyss? Time was ticking. The shadows were closing in. Sarah's fingers brushed against the cool, polished surface of the door marked with a swirling symbol that pulsed like a heartbeat. The shadows around her grew thicker, as if they were closing ranks, clamoring for her decision. Each moment felt heavy, pressing down on her thoughts, urging her to act before whatever darkness lurked behind them lunged. Choose. Choose. The voices screamed, a cacophony now, rising in a pitch that threatened to shatter her resolve. She hesitated, caught in a whirlpool of doubt and dread, but the cries of the children, a chorus of innocence caught in a storm, drummed in her ears. They needed her. She couldn't let fear dictate her path. All right, she whispered, summoning every ounce of courage. I choose you. Her heart raced as she turned the handle. The door creaked open with an ominous groan, and Sarah stepped inside, expecting to be met with darkness but was instead bombarded by a blinding light. Her eyes adjusted slowly, revealing a room filled with scattered toys, tattered books, and walls painted with bright colors. It looked like a child's bedroom, but it felt wrong, too bright and unnaturally cheerful. In the middle of the room sat a little girl, her back to Sarah. She was playing with a doll, oblivious to the intruder in her space. Sarah felt a rush of relief, but it was instantly overshadowed by an unsettling chill that curled around her spine. Are you all right? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The girl turned, her smile fading as she looked up, her eyes dark and hollow, more like windows to a void than any living soul. You shouldn't be here, she replied, her voice echoing empty, like a spoken thought dropped in a canyon. Where are the other children? Sarah pressed, the words tasting bitter on her tongue. The girl's expression was grave. They're lost, like you, she said, the innocence of her voice layered with an eerie seriousness. They're locked away. You have to find them. Before Sarah could respond, the room began to shudder. The walls trembled as though caught in a storm, and the cheerful decor warped into something grotesque, the paint peeling, the toys falling lifelessly to the ground. Panic prickled at the edges of her mind, but just as quickly, the commotion quieted, leaving an eerie stillness hanging in the air. What did I just walk into? Sarah breathed, the fear creeping back into her chest. Help us. The girl screamed suddenly, her tears streaming freely, warping her innocent face into one of terror. At that moment, the door slammed shut behind Sarah, the sound resounding like a thunderclap, sealing her inside. The girl's cries twisted into the echo of the children's voices, mingling and rising in a frantic crescendo that threatened to drown out her thoughts. Sarah. Mark's voice cut through the chaos, almost like a lifeline. But it was muffled, too far now. The little girl pointed to a cabinet on the other side of the room, her small finger trembling. In there, It's where they keep the secrets. You must see. A new weight settled on Sarah's shoulders. The cabinet loomed, dark and inscrutable, its handle glinting with a sinister promise. She could feel the pull of whatever lay within, welling up a storm of fear and determination inside her. With each shaky step toward the cabinet, the shadow behind her flickered. She turned, the little girl's face twisted in anguish, agony etched across her features. You have to hurry. The room blurred, the sounds of the children's cries intensifying, weaving together a tapestry of desperation. What secrets? Sarah gasped, swallowing hard as she reached out for the handle, the cold metal biting against her skin. But before she could turn it, the floor shook again violently, sending her crashing to her knees. The shadows swirled higher, pulling her down, and she realized too late that the decisions made here echoed far beyond this room. The cabinet began to crack open, releasing a rush of air that felt like whispers of lost dreams. With wide eyes and a racing heart, Sarah prepared to confront whatever darkness awaited inside. What would she uncover in the depths of that cabinet? Would it lead her toward salvation or plunge her further into despair? The storm of whispers grew louder, and Sarah's heart raced as she braced for the truth. The cabinet creaked open, and a foul breeze rushed out, sending a wave of icy fear down Sarah's spine. It felt as if the very essence of despair wanted to envelop her, to devour her sanity piece by piece. With a quaking breath, she peered inside, heart pounding like a war drum. The interior was shrouded in darkness, thick and oppressive. A faint glimmer caught her eye, something shimmering in the shadows. Curiosity pushed her forward. She reached in, her fingers brushing against something cold and smooth. It was a small, ornate box, adorned with strange symbols that seemed to flicker like a heartbeat of their own. Take it. The girl urged, urgency slicing through the chaos. You'll understand. As Sarah withdrew the box from the cabinet, the shadows twisted violently around her, blending into a swirling vortex of noise. The cries of children rang out, rising and falling like the tide, drowning her thoughts. She examined the box, running her thumb over the intricate engravings. It felt warm, almost alive, thrumming with energy. Open it. The little girl cried, her voice now laced with desperation rather than fear. Please. A sudden crash startled Sarah, and she stumbled back, tripping over a fallen toy. The room lurched again, the walls shuddering like the very fabric of reality was unraveling around her. The light flickered, illuminating grotesque, contorted faces embedded in the peeling paint, mouths open in silent screams. What is happening? Sarah shouted, panic rising within her. She squeezed the box tighter, feeling the warmth radiate, grounding her for just a moment. The secrets. The girl pleaded, tears streaming down her cheeks, carving paths through the dirt on her face. You need to see the truth. They're counting on you. With a surge of determination, Sarah nodded. She placed the box on the floor, taking a deep breath. She knew that whatever lay inside might not be pretty. Gathering her grit, she unlatched the box, the snap echoing through the room like a gunshot. The lid popped open, and light flooded out in a blinding flash. Suddenly, images flooded her mind, visions of children trapped, lost in an endless night. Faces she recognized and others she didn't, all searching for something just out of reach. Their pleas for help resonated in her head, amplifying her heartbeat to a deafening thrum. Sarah. No. Mark's voice echoed again, but it faded beneath an unbearable weight of sorrow. The room darkened, shadows stretching toward her, grasping at her legs, pulling at her resolve. The light from the box flickered, revealing a path of broken toys and fraying dreams burning in its glow. What do you want from me? She screamed, feeling their pain wrap around her like chains. We need courage, cried the little girl, her voice just a whisper now. Do not let the darkness win. Summoning everything inside her, Sarah gripped the sides of the box and shouted above the din, I'm here. I will find you. The box trembled in her hands, energy swirling dangerously as darkness coiled tighter around her. Suddenly, a blinding light burst forth from the center, radiating warmth and hope, washing over the room. The colors brightened, chasing the shadows back, but in their retreat, they revealed something sinister: the outlines of countless children, their eyes wide and terrified. "I see you!" Sarah yelled, her voice carrying, buoyed by the newfound light. "I'm not afraid." In that moment, a cacophony of gasps swelled as the children, no longer just silhouettes, materialized around her. They reached toward her, seeking refuge, their whispers of gratitude merging into one powerful anthem of need, but before she could embrace this ephemeral moment, the shadows lashed back, darker and more furious. "You shouldn't have come," a guttural voice hissed, echoing through the tumult. "You will never leave." The revelation struck Sarah hard, making her breath hitch. The darkness hungered for her, her light now only a flicker of resistance against the tide of despair. Time seemed to stretch as she faced the choice again: fight against the fear consuming her or be swallowed whole. Her resolve solidified. "I'm not leaving without the truth," she shouted defiantly, drawing strength from the children surrounding her. As the shadows swirled violently in response, something began to change within the box. The voices of the children grew louder, clearer, merging into a single truth, but what would it reveal? Would she finally unearth the key to set them free? Or would the darkness claim her spirit, choking out any hope left in the room? With the storm of shadows raging around her and the children's lives hanging in the balance, the cliff of uncertainty loomed ever larger. What was the truth the box held? What consequences awaited her as she plumbed the depths of darkness? The shadows recoiled momentarily as if sensing the gravity of Sarah's declaration. The light from the box pulsed stronger, radiating a brilliance that felt almost sentient. It surrounded her, illuminating the anguished faces of the children, their eyes now filled with both fear and an unshakable hope. The air crackled with energy, vibrating against her skin. "Help us!" they chorused, their voices harmonizing into a painful song of desperation. Each word resonated deep within her, igniting a wildfire of determination. Then, just as quickly, the shadows twisted and writhed, their anger palpable. "You think you can save them?" the guttural voice roared, causing the floor beneath her to tremble. "You have no idea what you're unleashing." In that moment, Sarah could feel the darkness clawing at her thoughts, pushing its cold tendrils into her mind, whispering insidious doubts. She staggered back, gripping the box tighter as the struggle between light and shadow played out like a violent storm. It pained her to witness those innocent faces contorted with fear, and she pressed her lips into a thin line. "I can't abandon you. Not again." The children swarmed closer, their little hands reaching out in an unyielding chain of helplessness, grounding her within the chaos. Each touch sent waves of warmth through her, reminding her of the strength she had yet to realize. "What do I need to do?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper, yet the determination burned behind her words. "Trust the truth," the girl urged, her eyes shining with resolve. "The box holds the memories, you must unlock them." With trembling fingers, Sarah pushed the lid further open. The glow brightened, illuminating the dark corners of the room, banishing shadows to the edges where they simmered in fury. Images flickered to life, vivid and haunting: a scene of children playing, laughter swirling like music, then abruptly morphing into something darker. Cries echoed like thunder, her heart twisting in synchronicity with each terrifying revelation. "Look closer," they cried, their voices stronger now, urging her to see. Her focus intensified, and suddenly she was there in the memory. Laughter filled the air, bright and uncontrolled, only to be replaced by a cacophony of chaos. A figure loomed, a dark silhouette, its features twisted, eyes glowing with a predatory hunger. "You belong to me," it hissed, each word soaked in malice as it snatched away the joy, leaving only terror in its wake. "No!" Sarah gasped, the pain of the memory slicing through her. "No! This can't be who you are." But the truth unspooled before her, raw and visceral. The children, lost to that darkness, had been trapped in an endless cycle of anguish. Their spirits longing for freedom, but bound by something stronger than fear, an ancient curse that echoed across generations. "Break it!" the girl yelled. "You have to break the cycle." Sarah's heart raced. The key to their freedom was sitting in the box, pulsing with energy. She had to confront the horror head-on. "What do I have to do?" she shouted into the tumultuous air, locking eyes with the girl. "You're the light. Use it." With that, Sarah inhaled sharply and closed her eyes, letting the warmth wash over her. She opened her heart to the truth that had been buried: courage, compassion, sacrifice. The shadows continued to swirl menacingly, clawing at her resolve, but she stood rooted, unyielding. As she focused on the light within her, she felt it swell, merging with the energy from the box. The darkness hissed, pushing back against her heat, but she refused to back down. "I won't let you take anyone else." With a fierce cry, she thrust her hands into the light, channeling everything she had into one primal shout of defiance. Then, just as she felt the power begin to build, a chilling laugh echoed, reverberating through her very bones. "You think this ends here? You have only begun to unravel what you cannot comprehend." A sudden, blinding flash enveloped the room, swallowing her whole, and Sarah felt herself spiraling into a void, weightless and terrified. The box trembled, its power shifting in an unpredictable dance as shadows threatened to engulf her completely. What would this void reveal? Would she find the strength to emerge, or would she fall deeper into a nightmare beyond her worst fears? The truth was unraveling, but into what dark abyss would it lead her next? Light shattered the void, and Sarah was thrust back into the room, still reeling from the embrace of darkness that had chased her. This time, however, she felt different. A surge of power ignited within her, an unwavering fire fueled by hope. The children's faces surrounded her now, translucent but shining with warmth. "You did it!" one of them cried. "You found the truth." They shimmered like stars, hanging in the air, their voices echoing in unison. "I need to break the cycle," she shouted, her heart racing. "How do I finish this?" "Use what you've learned," pleaded the girl, her eyes alight with determination. "You can save us all." The shadows writhed angrily at her feet, reluctant to let go of their hold. They howled, a relentless presence that sought to drown Sarah in darkness. But with each cleansing breath she took, each heartbeat that thudded reassurance, the shadows recoiled, losing strength. "Courage," she breathed, her voice steadying. "Compassion." Then, she pictured the laughter of the children, their joyful times that had been stolen. "Your time is over," roared the dark voice that had haunted her, the air around her crackling with resentment. "You'll never set them free." But Sarah wasn't afraid anymore. With her heart fueled by the raw strength of memories of love, hope, and the sacrifices made for those who mattered most, she summoned the warmth inside her and thrust it toward the shadows. "I will not allow this." The light from the box blazed, shooting beams of penetrating brilliance that danced over the billowy darkness. The shadows screamed, twisting and contorting, around her. "You think this light will save you?" the voice spat. "You don't understand the power you're meddling with. I won't let fear reign." Her words thundered, resonating in the depths of her core. In that moment, the children gathered around her, forming a shield of brilliant light. They smiled, hope brimming in their joyous eyes, and she could feel their trust pouring into her, solidifying her resolve. Together, they chanted, and Sarah felt the potency of their unity pulse through the room. As she focused on the light, she believed in their freedom, collective energy swirling between them, coalescing into a singular point of brilliance. "Now!" she yelled, thrusting her hands outward, directing the light at the shadows. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as Sarah released the energy, a brilliant wave crashing into the shadows. It collided with the dark figure that loomed over her, its eyes, filled with rage, meeting her unwavering gaze. And then, in a moment of radiant clarity, she saw it so clearly, the interconnectedness of their suffering. The dark entity was a collection of the pain and fear that had consumed the lost souls. Your power is fueled by their pain, but I break that bond. She shouted, summoning every ounce of her strength and will. You have no hold on me, or on them. The light exploded forth, engulfing the shadows entirely. They howled, ripping through the air as they turned into mist, scattering like dust in the wind. Echoes of the children's laughter swelled, drowning out the agony that had once echoed in the room, transforming the dread into something lighter, something hopeful. In a brilliant flash, the darkness dissipated. Sarah felt the grip of despair unravel as the room brightened, warmer and filled with promises of a fresh start. When the luminescence faded, the space that remained felt lush and alive, a sanctuary carved from what had been anguish. The children were there, free, safe, radiant in their eternal youth, smiles breaking through the shadows of their past. Thank you. They sang, happiness woven into each note as they shimmered and spun, united once more, and then, as if in a dream, they began to fade, their souls merging into the bright light that surrounded Sarah. She felt a comfort wrap around her as they were released, ancestral ties severed, their burdens disappearing. Mark appeared then, stepping through the warm glow, his eyes wide with awe. You did it! He shouted, disbelief mingled with joy. Sarah rushed to him, the weight of fear gone, lightness filling her heart. I couldn't have done it without your help, without remembering what truly matters. We're free. All of us, he murmured, a smile illuminating his face. You've changed everything. They stood together, savoring the moment of triumph, their shared relief palpable in the air. What will happen now? Sarah asked, gazing into the fading remnants of the shadows. The echoes of the past may linger, he said, but we bear witness. We learn. We hold on to the truth. The air was filled with warmth, a newfound clarity linking them both. And we have each other, she added, feeling the bond deepen. With that, they stepped into the light. Sarah and Mark, ready to embrace the world renewed, ready to continue their stories, and laughing together, the clamor of the past fading into whispers behind them, but caution remained, a gentle reminder that shadows may skulk, always waiting. Understanding now began anew, for the choice to confront darkness and bring light began with them and rippled outward. As they walked, two figures bound by an unyielding spirit, Sarah looked to the sky, feeling a sense of peace wash over her. And that was the beginning of a new chapter where hope reigned supreme, unbroken by darkness. Don't forget, dear friends. If you love this conclusion and want more riveting stories, you need to subscribe now. It's your moment to join our family. Smash that like button now to help fuel the algorithm, and show your support. Flood the comments section with your thoughts. I want to hear your theories about what just happened. And don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your support changes everything, and together we can rise.